What did Hitchcock and Scully really look like when they were younger? Which character has the highest rate of inconsistencies? And who violates all laws of logic even though he's supposed to be the most self-consistent character? Hi, I'm Dylan, and here's a list of the top mistakes that we found in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Jake undercover. Without thinking twice, we were all heartbroken when in the cold open of Season 1's finale, Jake was fired from the Nine-Nine.
I'm celebrating. My name's Jake Peralta, and I just got fired from the NYPD.
Who would have guessed that it was just an excuse to put Peralta undercover? He did not just harmoniously blend into the mob family, but made friendship bonds that were supposed to last forever. Jake recalls this dangerous mission with pride, but somehow manages to confuse the dates. At the beginning of the second season, we are told Peralta was undercover for almost half a year. And that sounds legit. Otherwise, how would he gain the mob's trust? But when Adrian Pimento was introduced to the series, the guy who has spent years undercover, Peralta couldn't hold himself back from mentioning that he gets Pimento, because he spent 63 days on a mission with the mob. That's just 2 months, Peralta.
I've been undercover so long, I've forgotten who I am. I've seen terrible things.
Hitchcock, Scully, and Daniels? Paradoxically, this duo is one of the funniest and, at the same time, grossest on the show. Can we imagine Brooklyn Nine-Nine without these two useless cops whose habits could easily make us lose our appetite?
I think it's a cookie.
No, it's a pizza.
It's a cookie pizza! Another case solved.
That we almost forgot that the pilot episode reveals one more gang member, Daniels. She was never mentioned after the pilot episode though. Looks like the audience was fairly pleased with Hitchcock's and Scully's abomination, sending Daniels straight to retirement. Let's admit, these two are more than enough for the 99th precinct.
Let them go.
And once again, Hitchcock and Scully saved the day.
You didn't do anything. It was all Scully.
By the way, looks like the characters were named after two Brooklyn Nine-Nine producers, Norm Hitchcock and Mike Scully. If you want to know other Brooklyn Nine-Nine real-life details that were included in the plot, check out our video with Easter eggs at the end of this one, or you can just find the link in the comment section. Kevin's parents. Captain Holt is one of the most respected characters on the show. Being an African-American gay man, he had to work really hard to become a captain. There's no way you cannot enjoy Holt.
Just know, you have disappointed all three of us.
But there are people who hate Cap with all their guts. We're talking about Kevin's parents that are at first described as vicious homophobes that don't want to talk to Holt whatsoever. It was a very sad moment, but you should have seen the shock on our face in the episode 2 Turkeys. Do you remember it? It's the one where Holt investigates the case of the missing pie that him and Kevin were going to bring to Kevin's parents' house for Thanksgiving. Did the showrunners change their minds? Or maybe Kevin's parents finally accepted their son? Or was it just a mistake? A bit more of Thanksgiving. Charles Boyle is a known foodie who is literally obsessed with food.
Sounds good, boss.
Please call me Chef.
That's funny. Chef.
Thank you.
So for a man like Boyle, Thanksgiving is all about cooking turkey. Lots of people enjoy the holiday, mostly because of the abnormal quantity of delicious food, and Charles is not an exception. In Season 2, the whole episode is literally about him explaining that Thanksgiving should be called Turkey Day, which is indescribably irritating for the squad.
Gobble, gobble.
But just a few seasons later, Charles Boyle is not the same anymore and, unexpectedly, like the rest of us, calls the holiday Thanksgiving. Has family life with Genevieve changed him so much? Or did he just want to throw a traditional Thanksgiving party for Nikolaj?
Nikolaj.
Nikolaj, yeah, I said it.
Nikolaj.
Nikolaj.
Not even close. Nikolaj.
Nikolaj.
Almost Nikolaj.
Well, we'll never get an answer to that one. Peralta and kids. Amy and Jake's love story is music to the ears of both the other characters and the viewers.
It has been a true pleasure to watch your distracting childish rivalry evolve into a distracting childish courtship.
It seems that the two fit each other perfectly, and the chemistry between these two was vivid since the very first episode. But there's obviously no such thing as a flawless relationship even in the movies. The fight between the two in Season 6 was a total bummer. Jake was overwhelmed by the idea that Amy wanted kids, especially since he wasn't a fan of the idea. We would have let this go if Jake wasn't always saying that he wanted children throughout the entire show. So, did he change his mind? Or did the scriptwriters have to come up with a new plot twist for the couple? Captain Contradictory. In the Season 2 episode, The Road Trip, Boyle teaches Holt the basics of food sensuality and cooking, while Cap tells him about his taste preferences. Well, it's hard to call it taste. Holt says that if he had a chance, he would eat bland protein bars solely, as they contain all the nutrients his body needs. He simply doesn't appreciate the texture and flavor of regular food.
Now describe what you taste.
Cheese.
And
Cheese.
Sounds like something Cap would get away with saying. However, there is a but. A season earlier, we found out that Holt reads Boyle's food blog, because he is the only blogger critic that includes a mouthfeel index in his assessment. Just think about that. Holt, who said he's not fond of texture and taste in food, suddenly finds himself following a cuisine blog just to find out how certain food tastes and feels in your mouth? Now, we must say that's not the most logical thing said by Captain Holt. Why would he follow Boyle's blog if he's so indifferent about food?
I knew it!
Well, some may say that Holt cares about food only to pick a nice place to take Kevin out for dinner. But it still sounds a bit far-fetched, doesn't it? But that was not the last time he was untruthful. At first, he claimed that he doesn't have a TV in his bedroom, but that turned out to be a lie. Sometime later, during the party at Holt's house, Amy sneaks into his bedroom and sits in front of a TV.
Bing pot.
Oh, Cap, shame on you. The worst lawyer ever. Hashtag relationship goals is definitely not the caption to use for Boyle and his ex-wife. In the first season, we find out that his wife pays the alimony. Then something weird happens by season 3 because we find out that Charles pays 85% of his income to his ex-wife. How did this happen? Did the scriptwriters totally forget about what they previously wrote? Or did Charles quite literally have the worst lawyer in the world? Portrait of Dorian Hitchcock. Scully and Hitchcock are recognized as the worst cops in the precinct. And yes, we know there's extensive background history as to why.
Why are the two of you doing this self-evaluation together?
Scully doesn't handle pressure well.
But in season 6, in the episode called Hitchcock and Scully, the two are awesome butt-kicking cops investigating big cases. And as Hitchcock's page on Wiki Fandom states, he has more arrests on record than anyone else in the 99. Well, would a bad cop achieve that? The duo explained the paradox in one of the episodes, saying that they are just pretending to be dumb so people won't expect them to work. So, are they good or bad detectives? It's also not clear how these two looked when they were young. In episode 20, season 1, they show Hitchcock and Scully in the 70s, and the two look pretty much the same as they do today. 6 seasons later, the events in the cold open take place in the 80s, but Hitchcock and Scully look super young and fit while telling us the story of how they lost their muscles. Could this qualify as time travel? Moreover, in one of the episodes, Jake mentions that Hitchcock became bald at 15. Very confusing. How does Holt lie? If you take a close look at the series, you may notice that Cap sometimes openly admits his dishonesty even though he's strongly against it. But sometimes he seems okay with hiding the truth. When Hitchcock and Scully decided to fool the detectives and make up a story about a fake missed birthday party, Holt was quick to lie about his trip to Ecuador.
Yes, the capital of Ecuador is Quito.
But when him and Terry miss Gina's dance performance, he is strongly against lying to her. So what does he stand by? Is it okay to lie to only some people?
You played me.
Like Franz Bluheim plays the flute.
What's going on between Jake and Terry? Though these two clearly have a sort of father-son bond relationship, Terry once said that he loves Jake like one of his daughters.
Oh, good.
But later, in the episode when Terry is going to have a vasectomy done, he implies that him and Peralta aren't close because he is not that kind of a friend. So, what kind of a relationship do they really have? Terry's problems. Sergeant's on and off again battle with his weight means he works out a lot and has a strict diet. Do you remember that episode when he got addicted to chocolate bins and gained weight extra fast?
Sometimes we fall down, but it's how we get back up that matters.
In the series, Jeffords tells us that he was short and chubby as a kid, but the episode, called The Mole, proves the opposite. When him and Diaz went undercover for a silent disco party, we see Terry's flashback to his childhood, and he appeared to be pretty tall and thin. How did this happen? Gina and the Lord of the Rings. Boyle-Lanetti wedding episode had a peculiar detail. In the episode when Jake says, "You sound like Gollum" to Gina, she replies that she has no idea who that is, since she hasn't seen the movies because she's too pretty for that. But literally 3 minutes later, Gina references the Lord of the Rings to Lynn, saying, "I'd call you a hobbit." So did Gina lie about not seeing the movie? I mean, there's no other way to explain how she knows who Gollum and the Hobbit is. Gina, there's nothing shameful about watching the franchise. Pontiac Bandit.
Rosa, 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 oh yeah, beautiful Rosa.
What could be more fun for a cop than having a long-lasting nemesis? Well, at least that's what Jake thinks, saying that he never had a nemesis with a cool nickname. But that's not right, Peralta.
Nah.
Because in the very next episode, we find out that Jake has been hunting down the Pontiac Bandit for 8 years already. Does this mean that this nickname is not cool enough for Jake?
Fly, 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 dog. Fly, 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 dog.
Captain Sarcasm. By this point, you've probably noticed that Holt is the most controversial character here. In one of the episodes, he picks on Bob Anderson for using sarcasm. Remember when he said, "Betraying the FBI is one thing, but sarcasm, Bob? Wow." It seems like in Holt's universe, there's nothing worse than being sarcastic. But this contradicts the character in many other episodes. The first thing that comes to mind is when Jake and Cap are on a task in a dark alley, and Jake says, "I think this is where Batman's parents got killed." To which Holt replies with sarcasm, "I'll take your word for it." Have you noticed any other inconsistencies? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay Lanetti awesome!